Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be taking a look at an article from Politico. Now this was published on March 19th. It's written by Josh Gerstein. And you look at the title here. Federal judge pens dissent, slamming decades-old press protections. See, they try to make it sound like, this is attacking the press. Politico's upset about the fact of this situation. The lead in here sums things up on how they're going to frame it. D.C. Circuit Senior Judge Laurence Silberman's diatribe amounted to an assault on a Supreme Court decision that set the framework for modern defamation law. Now, they're leaving out the fact that the press, like the legacy media, because even though I under the Constitution's idea of it, I'm the press, that this standard would not be the same, for them as opposed for me with this idea of defamation law. They have special protections. And they're upset that he says that they should have to get rid of their special protections. And the reason why they are is you look at what they've done. The claiming that Trump was in bed with Putin. All these slanderous and, libels in print, but libelous things that they've printed, like say on the note of Russia and Trump and everything else. Because they have these special protections, they've not only they've done that to large amounts of public figures. Especially as of late. That's what I mean by large amounts. I mean comparatively. We're talking, far more than they've ever done. And they've gone after them and they've libeled them. Because they go, we're the press. There was no malice involved when it was clearly malice. And they get it. And then they're able to lie through their teeth and say, we weren't, nothing we said was malice, was meant in a malicious way. And they go, and we're the press, so we're specially protected. And they get away with it. And the Politico here and Josh Gerstein don't like the fact that the judge called this out and says it should end. A federal appeals court judge issued an extraordinary opinion Friday attacking partisan bias in the news media, lamenting the treatment of conservatives in American society, and calling for the Supreme Court to overturn a landmark legal precedent that protects news outlets from lawsuits over reports about public figures. See, that's their leadoff. What they're talking about is the report that allows them, as long as they're not maliciously doing it, this precedent, as long as they're not, quote, maliciously doing it, they can libel people, or if it's, say, like television news, they can slander them. That's what this is. And, Politico doesn't want to admit that. And they're like, it's an extraordinary opinion. Why? Because he wants you to have your special protections taken away so that you're on the same playing field as, say, me or any other average person out there? Oh my God, heaven forbid the elites and the self-perceived elites in the legacy media actually end up getting held to the same standard as the rest of us. I mean, come on now. Can't have that, right? D.C. Circuit Senior Judge Laurence Silberman's diatribe contained in his dissent in a libel case amounted to a withering frontal assault on the 1964 Supreme Court decision that set the framework for modern defamation law, New York Times v. Sullivan. And New York Times v. Sullivan is complete bullshit. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that they should have special protections. There's nothing that says that they should be, absolved of committing libel. Well, as long as it's not malicious, mind you. And he was calling that out. He's saying this is ridiculous. Why should they be able to get to libel and slander people? But Politico has to frame it a completely different way, of course. Silberman said the decision requiring public figures to show actual malice to recover against a news organization for libel was a policy-driven result that the justices simply invented out of whole cloth. And that's exactly what they did. That is exactly what they did. The holding has no relation to the text, history, or structure of the Constitution, and it badly constitutionalized an area of law refined over centuries of common law adjudication, the Ronald Reagan appointee wrote. And he's dead on accurate with that. That's exactly what we have here. It has no relation to the text, history, or structure of the Constitution. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that the quote-unquote press should have special privileges when it comes to the fact of, liability with the things they say. Silberman echoed and approvingly cited an opinion Justice Clarence Thomas issued 2 years ago, questioning the rationale of the New York Times v. Sullivan and calling it for the High Court to revisit the decision. And they should. Justice Thomas has already persuasively demonstrated that New York Times was policy-driven decision masquerading as constitutional law, the judge wrote. And see, they don't like that he did this because, you know, the judicial class is not supposed to step on the toes of the legacy media class, you know, the legacy media elites, you know, their class, because they're supposed to be able to do what they want. And when a judge says that, hey, you shouldn't have carte blanche, they get their panties in a bunch. But the exceptional aspect of Silberman's opinion was not its legal arguments. Wait a minute. Okay. You got to love that framing there, but whatever. So anyway, was not its legal arguments, but the protracted airing of the judge's evidently deep-seated pent-up grievances that conservatives are being oppressed by overwhelmingly liberal news media, academia, and technology companies. Well, because they are. See, they do not like it. And they're going, well, exceptional, because they're like, well, it's, you know, out there. It's not part of it. They don't like that he's calling that out. It's ridiculous. That has created a frighteningly orthodox media culture, he wrote. The increased power of the press is so dangerous today because we are very close to one-party control of these institutions, the judge declared. And they don't like that he's calling that out and pointing that out. You know, because they're, you know, it's like CNN. Oh, we're impartial. You know, MSNBC, we're impartial. All these, you know, the New York Times, we're impartial. The Washington Shitpost, we're impartial, even though Bezos and his buddies, you know, his underlings have their hands up the people's asses that run the Washington Post and dictate what they can and can't do. And it's to push his agenda, his bullshit, his globalism, or, well, not his globalism, but the globalism that he, you know, being a globalist, the globalism that he wants. They don't like that this is being called out. Although the bias against the Republican Party, not just controversial individuals, is rather shocking today, this is not new. It is a long-term secular trend going back at least to the 70s. One-party control of the press and media is a threat to a viable democracy. And he's actually, you know, to an extent, he's actually pretty right. I mean, mind you, back then the left was, quote-unquote, more tolerant. I mean, look at, for example, now, mind you, they did go after the far left with Meathead, but you look at All in the Family, okay? Archie Bunker. That was about making fun of and attacking conservatives. Archie Bunker was their personification of what a conservative was. But they weren't, at that point, far-left commie shitbags, and Meathead was the personification of that. And you would see them go after both, because they were kind of middle of the road between the two. Now, the legacy media, Hollywood, you know, other types of media, social media, you know, like Silicon Valley, all of it. It's now leaning way over to Meathead's territory. And they've exercised more top-down control on pushing their bullshit. That's what's going on. And the judge sees this. He's calling it out. And Politico and the other members of the legacy media that are there alongside them are freaking out about this. I mean, this is a good thing that this judge had the balls to do this. I mean, it's a little late, but better late than never. Silberman slammed the New York Times and the Washington Post as virtually Democratic Party broadsheets. He added, nearly all television, network, and cable is a Democratic Party trumpet. Even the government-supported National Public Radio follows along. Yes, exactly. NPR, okay? Pretty far left, if not far, far left. And they push they push things that go against this country, and they're federally funded. And they get away with it. Nearly all television is controlled by the left. I mean, hell, even Fox News, if you look at the Murdoch family. Okay, minus Rupert and one of the sons, the rest of them are pretty far left. Then that needs to be looked at and taken into consideration. Silberman acknowledged the existence of conservative outlets such as Fox News, but warned of serious efforts to muzzle the network. He did not explain further. You gotta love this playing stupid here by Shipwreck here. He thinks people are going to buy this. He did not explain further. Well, let's see. You had CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, I believe the Washington Post, even Politico here, plus a bunch of other legacy media, supposedly impartial outlets saying that Fox News need to be canceled because they were pushing false information and all this other stuff. And he did not explain further. He didn't need to explain further because you assholes were freaking transparent about wanting to get rid of Fox. You were transparent about wanting to get rid of Newsmax. You were transparent about wanting to get rid of OAN. You were saying they're misinformation peddlers. They're not parroting the things that we are. They need to be silenced. That's what you did. Now you want to play stupid? Silberman also specifically decried Twitter's decision prior to last fall's election to ban links to a New York Post story relaying allegations about the contents of a computer that once belonged to Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden. The judge cited that as an example of how Silicon Valley filters news delivery in ways favorable to the Democrat Party. Well, that's more than filtering news. That was literally them censoring newsworthy information, censoring information that would have swayed votes. That would have probably made it harder for them to do their fortification of the election. The judge also took sides in the ongoing public debate about the duties of social media companies. Oh no, heaven forbid he took a side. And you don't like the side that he took now, do you? Because, duties of took a side in the ongoing public debate of the duties of social media companies, arguing that they are morally obligated to allow free expression and diversity of views. Heaven forbid that he has a view like that. Arguments that the platforms are a private business and not legally obliged to follow First Amendment standards may be right, the judge said, but don't absolve social media outlets from engaging in what he termed censorship. What he termed censorship? You mean literally censorship. Okay? Censorship is not a word that is exclusive to governments. Private corporations will censor their employees. Okay? The MPAA censors movies. Or they, not them directly censoring movies, but they suggest certain censoring. You make it sound like, well, what this isn't censorship when it is. You sleazy bastard, buddy. Repression of political speech by large institutions with market power is, I say this advisedly, fundamentally un-American, Silberman wrote. As one who lived through the McCarthy era, it is hard to fathom how honorable men and women can support such actions. Well, because they know on a level playing field, with all information out there, with all points of view out there, okay, the left cannot win. They know this. And the only way they see that they're going to win is by silencing and destroying the ability of others to give their points of view, their opinions. They're calling, being able to put out forth their views and opinions and being able to counter what the left's bullshit is. They know they need to stop that. That's the only way that they will win. They know this. This isn't about honor. This is about ideology. When you're an ideologue, okay, honor comes second. Hell, it's usually down at the bottom of the list. It's not even close to second. Silberman did not delve into the reasons for liberal bias in the media, but declared in a footnote that they surely relate to bias at academic institutions. Oh, you think? And they don't like that either, because he's pointing out that the bias comes from the academic institutions. These people go out into the real world, and then they spread it from there. Heaven forbid he explain that. Whether Silberman's views about the media are widely held by conservative judges is unclear, but there has been no groundswell of support in the courts for the notion of overruling the protections for the press that the Supreme Court established a half-century ago. Now, this is what's funny, is see, down here, they're willing to admit that there was protections established to them, as in extra protection, as in extra legal protection. They're willing to admit it this far down. In the beginning of the story, it's like, oh, he's trying to attack the press. Maybe it's the fact he doesn't want you to have your extra protections because it's not right or fair to the rest of Americans. And who cares if it was a half century ago? You make that sound like that's a good thing. Well, it's been there for a half century, so why fuck with it? Because it's dishonest and sleazy and scummy that you people should get special protection? Well, judges of various ideological stripes seem less deferential to the media now that... wait a minute. Well, judges of various ideological stripes seem less deferential to the media now than judges of a few decades ago. The basic underpinnings of the actual malice standard do not appear likely to be displaced anytime soon. Oh, well, maybe, with enough pressure it might happen. You hope it isn't anytime soon. The vehicle for Silberman's blistering judicial rant was a libel suit two former Liberian government officials filed against a human rights group, Global Witness, over a report the officials said implied they had taken bribes in connection with an oil contract. And they go, we didn't say this with malice. And they expect to get away with it. I mean, that's kind of sleazy. You're literally trying to make them sound like sleazy. These guys sound like complete and total scumbags. And you can hide behind the fact of, we didn't mean it with malice when you clearly did, and get away with it. That's not right. The majority of the D.C. Circuit panel found the case fairly straightforward under existing precedents, concluding that Global Witness was protected by the actual malice standard because it had no persuasive indication that its report was false at the time it was published. Oh, bullshit. This is like the idea of, well, the Steele dossier was legit back then. I mean, people still believe it, but it's been completely debunked now. And the lies that they published from, the Piss dossier, they got a free friggin' ride. Because, no malice, okay? There's no actual malice. There's no actual malice completely, lying about Trump, okay, supposedly. There's no actual malice here. You got to love this bullshit. And this should go to show you where the judiciary lines up in regards to if it's for the people or if it's for, say, elite classes like the press. Because clearly, this goes to show that the justices that weren't in line with this federal judge think that the press is an elite, is a class that's above you and I, that they're special, that they should deserve special treatment. It's not right. It's morally reprehensible that they would, it was real easy to see this. I mean, this is ridiculous. The officials' denials of wrongdoing were insufficient to suggest that the report was probably false. So wait a minute. In a society where you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, you have the Global Witness, without any actual proof, make claims. They say they're not true, and because this is literally the Wikipedia logic of how they get away with pushing the shit that they do. This is the same exact logic. Holy shit. The officials' denials of wrongdoing were insufficient to suggest. This is what's funny. They can call Spurgon of retard, okay, Sargon. They can call him a white nationalist and white supremacist on Wikipedia. I mean, he's a retard, but he's not a white supremacist. He's, he's a fucking reject who's been waiting for Gay More Gate 2.0 to come back around so he can be relevant again. Or at least he thinks that'll make him relevant. He goes and says, look, I'm not a white supremacist. He goes and gives example after example, but because it didn't come from their approved sources like the legacy media, they're like, sorry, you're a white supremacist. But I'm telling you I'm not. Well, sorry, that's not proof that you're not. Same exact friggin' logic here. I mean, it's pretty sad when your judicial system runs like the fact-checking system at Wikifuckinpedia. This is disgusting to see that. But we're supposed to be okay with it. It's disgusting. I mean, so just Judge David Tatel here wrote that in an opinion, joined by Judge Sri Srimvansan, Okay, well, they need to be told to get their heads out of their asses. Anyway, Tittel recoiled at some of Silberman's rhetoric, including his description of the majority's legal conclusions as obviously fallacious. Well, of course he did, because he didn't like being called out by Silberman. Of course he's going to say it's fallacious. He just literally, took and the plate glass window that they put up, okay, separating the press from the average person, he took a big old friggin' rock and threw it right through that plate glass window. And they don't like that. Tittel also warned that arguments the Liberian officials put forward in the case had breathtaking implications and would find support for an inference of actual malice in a wide swath of investigative journalism that turns out to be critical of its subject. Oh my God! So, wait a minute. So, the case that they made would have caused... Wait a minute. So, wait a minute. The legal case they made would have actually made it would have backed others making the same case? Well, it must have been a very convincing case to scared to tell like that. But, would find support for an inference of actual malice in a wide swath of investigative journalism that turns out to be critical of its subjects. Translation: when they go and run their mouths and lie about those people that they don't like Trump, this could actually mean that those people have legal grounds to go after them if their argument holds water. And we're going to say it doesn't. That's what we have for a situation with that. I mean, this is friggin' hilarious. Both judges in the majority are Democratic appointees. Tittel is an appointee of President Bill Clinton. Well, Srinivasan was appointed by President Barack Obama. Well, of course, they're going to go and protect the media. You've got these Democrat-appointed, what's the word I'm looking for? Activists on the bench who are going to protect, the left's media machine and everything else. I mean, hell, these people don't like that Silberman called this shit out. They really don't like it. Silberman's views about partisan bias in the media are clearly deep-seated and long-held. His opinion cites a speech he gave nearly 30 years ago decrying what he viewed as a tendency by judges to refrain from making tough decisions that might be poorly received by the liberal press, which they've done. So he calls that out, saying that there are judges afraid of the legacy media attacking them, and you don't like the fact that he's pointing that out. Because you don't want the average person to know that you can hold a judge by their balls and use fear to get them to do things that you want, as opposed to do the right thing. Speaking to the Conservative Federalist Society in 1992, the judge branded such fears as the greenhouse effect, taking the name from the New York Times court reporter of the era, Linda Greenhouse. The judge also specifically faulted attorneys turned reporters who cover the courts. Well, yeah, I understand having a legal background if you're a court, a legal reporter or a court reporter or whatever. But you're going to end up being like legal or legal beagle, legal waste of space, legal shit for brains. And you're going to put your own bias in and use that with your legal knowledge to twist and lie and misrepresent things to push an agenda like Legal does. That's the truth about it. The truth is that the lawyer reporters are among the most unbalanced, the least abashed at asserting the value of judicial activism, Silberman said. According to an account in the Times, neither of the Times Supreme Court reporters at the time was an attorney. At the time. Does that negate what he's saying? No. You got to love how they throw that in there to be like, well, this doesn't mean shit. It still does. You're figuring if you use this stupid tactic, it's going to negate it, at least with the low information, low IQ dipshits that Politico usually caters to, that think that they're intellectually superior and actually have an intellect. But it doesn't do that. The judge's opinion also contains some passages that could be viewed as insubordinate or at least disrespectful to the Supreme Court. Oh, wait a minute. Calling out the Supreme Court is being insubordinate. Saying that they should go and look back, take another look at this is insubordinate. Fuck you. This is retarded shit. Anyway, Silberman, 85, made clear that he relished the opportunity and did not shy away from it. So basically what you're saying is he should cuck to the Supreme Court? Fuck you. Judges have opinions. They have a right to voice those opinions, even if it goes against your precious Supreme Court justices that rule that you guys should have special protection. Wow. To the charge of disdain, I plead guilty. I readily admit that I have little regard for holdings of the court that dress up policymaking in constitutional garb, the judge wrote. Oh no, heaven forbid he said something like that. Clutch your pearls. That is the real attack on the Constitution, in which, it should go without saying, the framers chose to allocate political power to the political branches. The notion that the court should somehow act in a policy role as a council of revision is illegitimate. That's insubordinate, pointing out that they shouldn't be legislating from the bench like they did in this case, giving, what amounts today to the legacy media special protection, because you know what? As a member of the press, I mean, I do provide commentary, but technically I would be considered the press. I would not get this protection. Yet, right here, they get that protection. They like that protection, and they don't like that he's calling it out. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is truly some ridiculous shit. That they honestly think that they deserve this special protection. You know what, Josh Gerstein and Politico and the New York Times and the Washington Post and every other legacy media outlet out there, get bent. Go fuck yourselves. You don't deserve this special protection that was not in the Constitution. The fact that he's saying it should be looked at by the Supreme Court again and taken away from you is a good thing. Deal with it. Anyway, I've covered this well enough. I'm leaving things here.
If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video, when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.